Japan's decision to release treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean has stirred fierce controversy. The International Atomic Energy Agency and the United States supports the move, saying it's in line with globally accepted nuclear safety standards. But local fishermen, residents, and international consumers are concerned.
The amount of treated radioactive water that Japan will release into the sea would fill 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That massive amount of water has been accumulating in tanks at the Fukushima nuclear facility since an earthquake and a tsunami damaged its reactors in 2011. It includes water used to cool the plant, as well as rain and groundwater that seeps in daily. But space is now running out. The water will first be processed to remove almost all harmful elements and will be diluted before it's released into the sea. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga says it's unavoidable in order to complete the decades-long process of decommissioning the nuclear plant. But it's an option fiercely opposed by local fishermen and residents. Protesters have gathered outside the Prime Minister's office, urging him to reverse the decision. Environmental groups say radioactive materials can remain in the water and be easily concentrated in the food chain. They allege accumulated doses over time could even damage DNA.
私は突然というふうに感じています。今まで私たちの反対の声をたくさん届けていたので、それがもっともっと届けていかないとダメなんだなって思いましたけど、とにかく海洋放出されないように願って私たちももっともっと声を上げていきたいと思いますし、国外の方もよろしく応援をお願いしたいです。流してほしくないって思っている人たちがこんなにいるのだっていうことを伝えてほしいと思います。
Japan's fishery industry also worry that the move will wipe out years of work to convince consumers that Fukushima's seafood is safe, and they appear to have a reason to worry.
저는 한국산을 위주로 먼저 선택을 하고 있어요. 그렇죠. 일본이 이제 우리나라까지 이제 영향을 줄 수 있으니까 좀 많이 걱정이 되긴 합니다. 뭐 일본산뿐만 아니라 이제 바다에 뿌려지면 우리나라나 다 이게 다 문제가 생기는 거니까 조금 꺼려지지 않을까 싶어요. 정부에서는 강하게 항의를 해야 되지 않을까 생각합니다.
Work to release the water will begin in about 2 years and likely take decades to complete.
South Korea has strongly objected to Japan's decision. The foreign ministry has called in the senior Japanese envoy to express its regret. Environmental groups have vowed to take action to stop what they call an act of nuclear terror. Lee Min-suk has more.
South Korea says Japan's announcement is strongly regretful and that it will be taking measures to protect its citizens from Japan's contaminated water.
우리 국민의 안전과 해양 환경 피해 방지를 위한 구체적인 조치를 포함할 것을 일본 정부에 강력히 요구하겠습니다. 우리 정부의 우려를 전달하고 오염수 처리 과정 전반에 대한 투명한 정보 공개와 국제적 검증 추진을 요청할 계획입니다.
Now, South Korea, which currently bans imports of seafood from that area, says the decision was unilaterally reached by Japan without any consultations with its closest neighbor, South Korea, and reiterated its earlier stance that everything must be transparent and done in a safe way in line with the international standards. The comments came after an emergency meeting with vice ministers from the Foreign and Maritime Ministries and also the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission. South Korea in the past also voiced concerns, and it has already sent a letter to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, raising concerns over the environmental impact over the water released. North Korea, too, in the past has also criticized Japan, saying that it was a criminal act and that it would not tolerate contamination of its blue water by the nuclear waste. Now, despite the concerns, experts say it is possible that South Korea may be alone in this fight, as few other countries seem as concerned as South Korea over this issue. Some experts also say that although the radioactive levels from Fukushima could be higher than those from normally operating nuclear plants, South Korea and other countries also operate nuclear plants and discharge liquid into the ocean, although they are done after a filtration process to reduce the radioactive. Now, experts say this water release announcement by Japan on Tuesday could further strain ties between the two countries, which already are in dispute over historical issues. Lim Yang-suk, CNA, Seoul.
China's view is that the release of radioactive water is highly irresponsible. The decision puts a further strain on already shaky relations. Olivia Xiong with more.
China's foreign ministry issued a stinging statement on Tuesday expressing grave concern over Tokyo's latest decision to discharge more than 1 million tons of contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. The ministry accused Japan of making a unilateral decision in spite of doubts and opposition from home and abroad, and before exhausting all safe ways of disposal. It also said Japan had not fully consulted neighboring countries and the international community. The move, according to Beijing, would severely affect human health and the immediate interest of people in neighboring countries. It called on Japan to re-evaluate the issue and refrain from discharging the wastewater until it has consulted and reached an agreement with all stakeholder countries and the International Atomic Energy Agency. Other countries like South Korea have spoken out against the move, but the U.S. has expressed support for Japan, saying its approach is acceptable. Hitting back at this, China's state media accused Western politicians and media of having double standards. Editor-in-chief of the Communist Party-linked Global Times, Hu Xijin, wrote in a tweet that the U.S. was the only country that could stop Japan, but instead it had gone along with the decision in exchange for Japan's closer strategic following. Now, this comes amid tense Sino-U.S. relations as Washington rallies allies like Japan to counter a rising China. China said that it would continue to follow developments in Japan closely with the international community and reserves the right to make further responses. Olivia Xiong, CNA, Beijing.